Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the astrology chart of Nisargadatta Maharaj and also go over some of his readings. Real main thing is to go over some of his teachings as like an introduction. But I thought, why not throw in some astrology to begin with to give us some context, make some sense about all of this, and tie it into everything else. Just a quick update before I begin. I'm putting some other projects on hold. I already mentioned that I put my book project on hold, my Scorpio book. And it's just on hold. I realize that I have to pay a bit more attention to it personally, even though it's my ideas. But I just have to build up the momentum for that. I have to wait for the right time. And then my website, joeaxman.com. I mean, I think it was a really important project, and I don't fault myself at all for trying something new, but I'm not sure it's the direction that I want to go in. Like, it is what it is. We have to try this, try that in order to really narrow down our experience and go through a process of elimination. It's just on hold for now. I don't have the energy right now to pursue it, and I'd rather pursue make really good videos. I am doing some research for a more deep dive video on the astrology of beauty, which I think will be part of a series. Because this is something that I can really contribute and something that has meaning and value. It's something I'm good at, and I should really, focus my energy on the things that I'm here to do. God chose to speak through me in a specific way, and that way is primarily through astrology. Not limited to it, and it doesn't mean I can't try other things, but don't want to deny that part. All right. So I'm just going to take a brief look at Nisargadatta Maharaj astrology chart. It's not going to be too intense. We're not going to spend too long on this, but you can see he's got his Aries ascendant and exalted sun in Aries, first house, and it's very prominent, very strong, extremely strong persona. If you don't know Nisargadatta Maharaj, this might not make as much sense, but if you watch a video or you hear him or you read him, it'll make a lot more sense. I mean, he's this huge fiery character, right? Very, very passionate, enlightened being. And he defied sort of stereotypes about what it meant to be an enlightened guru. Smoked cigarettes. In fact, leading up to his enlightenment, before he became like this big, guru, he had a cigarette shop and sold cigarettes. And we can see this actually with the ascendant Lord Mars in Cancer in the fourth house, right? Mars in Cancer is not in good dignity. It's debilitated. It's opposite. It's exaltation in Capricorn. And fourth house has to do with land, real estate, things like stores and the type. So he had a cigarette store and he smoked cigarettes himself. So that is very much seen in this fourth house, Mars in Cancer. The poor dignity would relate to the cigarettes, right? He's got a full moon, right? So moon in Libra, sun in Aries. So he's a very bright personality, attracting tons of people, especially because first house, seventh house. So moon in the seventh house, he needs people in his life and as part of his relationships. His caring, his concern is towards others, right? And he's going to attract a lot of people into his life, which he did. Okay. He does have Mercury conjunct Venus in Taurus, so that's excellent for Venus. And it benefits Mercury as well. And these are in both the second house from the ascendant and second, essentially, to the sun. And so that's important. You want to look at the relationships between not only the ascendant, but sun and moon as well. and where planets are in relationship to them, including the ruler and other planets. But having planets in the second to the ascendant and sun shows that his voice, his expression, his ability to communicate and convey, when you look to second and third, is very strong, right? And third lord in the second, and Mercury square the nodes. So Mercury in Taurus in the second house is going to be a very prominent planet for him. Mercury is ruling the third and the sixth. So daily communications, daily speaking. If the third lord's in the second, that means communication is going to the mouth. That means speaking, right? And he was a speaker, and a very passionate speaker, very intense speaker. And that the square to the node shows there's definitely something destined about this ability to speak and communicate. And he's got a lot. You can see the harmony here with the 12, 12, 12, 12, and 11, right? So there's a lot going on here with these planets: Mercury, Venus, Pluto, Neptune, Mars, the nodes, and Chiron. Chiron being opposite Mercury. Yeah, and just in general, I mean, I see no sort of, okay, there's a semi-sextile between Mercury and Pluto, and so therefore Mercury in the 12th to Pluto, that's quite interesting combination, actually, because Mercury is going to dignify Pluto, because Pluto's in Gemini, as well as Neptune to some extent. And it's also in the 12th from Pluto, so giving a very kind of secretive, hidden, mystical quality to this Pluto, which is already Pluto conjunct Neptune in the third, which is already very deep, powerful, spiritual, right? Wait a second. Sorry about that. Just had a brief interruption. What was I saying? Yeah, I mean, so essentially, okay, then Mars in Cancer, you know, disharmonious with his expression. So he's going to be able to express this Mars in poor dignity. And if you watch like poor dignity planets, you see that they have like a very crude, rough, harsh way of expressing themselves. And so if you listen to them speak, if you watch the videos, they're in Hindu language, Indian, but you can sense this quality. This Mars in Cancer is violent, passionate, hypersexual, potentially, obviously not with an enlightened guru, but his speech is quite violent. Not in like actually like, you know, he's not hitting anyone physically, but like the way he speaks, it's quite aggressive, quite strong. I mean, that Aries ascendant, but it's also the Mars in Cancer. Mars is sextile the Mercury, so his expression, his ability to communicate is I mean, the Mars in Cancer is coming out through his ability to communicate. So is this Pluto and Neptune, and a lot of spiritual understanding is coming here because it's Gemini, third house, intellect. Okay, then Jupiter's in Virgo, which is really interesting because Jupiter is wisdom, spirituality. And Virgo, it's opposite, it's rulership in Pisces, so it's not meant to, it's in detriment here. Not meant to do that well. So that is really interesting. It is showing a trine with the sun, but it's out of sign, right? If it was in the last degrees of Leo, that would be much stronger. But anyway, by degrees, there's trinal relationship with the sun. But we saw this also with Khalil Gibran, who, I mean, these are two spiritual heavyweights. I mean, Khalil Gibran wrote The Prophet. It's the third most translated book of all time. I mean, that's nothing to laugh at. It's nothing to sneeze at. So, and he definitely had a very, very profound spiritual understanding, Khalil Gibran. And so does Nisargadatta Maharaj, right? And just in contrast, Nisargadatta is much more of a speaker, whereas Khalil Khalil Gibran's much more of a writer. So that's just interesting for whatever it's worth. Yeah, there's a square from Jupiter to, and again, it's not quite a square because it's out of sign, but by degree, Uranus and Saturn in Scorpio. And that's still going to add some sort of quality to his philosophy. So the Jupiter in Virgo here, I think is going to be very sharp, right? I don't think it's detracting from his spirituality. In fact, I think he can hold it. I think he can harness it. I think he can embrace it. Because Jupiter in Virgo is going to make his spirituality into a sort of very, very, very analytical kind of spirituality. Whereas most people would not be able to raise their Jupiter, their wisdom, their connection to God, to, if it's Jupiter in Virgo or Jupiter in Gemini, if we're talking about Khalil Gibran, to a very high level, he was, right? And so he's getting both sides. He's getting a very dynamic spirituality. That's one of the reasons he's so famous. I mean, he's been called by other spiritual teachers, his book, his explanations, that's the most clear and concise spiritual explanation that there is. And I think that's largely in part to Jupiter at 0 degrees Virgo. So even if it's not considered good dignity, I think the Virgo is lending that crystal clarity to an otherwise very abstract realm. As Virgo has that sharp, organized ability. And then the Uranus-Saturn square is making it even more crystal sharp and penetrating, shocking. I mean, the square to Saturn would tend to be, with Jupiter and Saturn, would tend to be much more, would concretize it, make it much more scientific. Like you'll see this relationship, not necessarily a square, but not, I mean, potentially, with like scientists or scientific philosophers, right? And the Uranus, the conjunction with Uranus to Saturn and the square to Jupiter would make it much more radical in a very charged kind of way. The square is bringing in this kind of aggressive, efforted energy, makes it much more intense. Yeah, let's see, a lot of inconjuncts, a lot of red here. So like Pluto to Chiron, I don't know. Chiron's really on the 8th cusp there, so he did die of cancer, so maybe that's related. Sun in conjunct Uranus and Saturn again. That's kind of an explosive quality. The inconjunct is an imbalanced relationship. So he can go from being Sun in Aries, big, bright, and descendant, very passionate, to deeply insightful, because it's 8th house Scorpio, Uranus and Saturn together. Hard, authoritative, powerful, strict, but shocking and cold at the same time. So there's that ability to flip and really shock people quite strongly. He does have a T-square with the nodes with Mercury and Chiron, so that's interesting. Yeah, Chiron again, and Chiron's in Scorpio right at the 8th house cusp, so this is sort of flirting with death. I mean, it does make me think about enlightenment as well. In any case, this was just a brief overview of his chart. MC Lord Saturn is in the 8th house, which is interesting because of the depth of what he talks about in his talks. And so let's get right to that. And I also have 10th Lord in the 8th house, so that's why I talk about astrology. Probably why I also talk about these things like Nisargadatta Maharaj. All right, this is a PDF which you can download or just read if you want. It's holybooks.com. Just look at I am that PDF. If you were interested, do a Google search. All right, I'm just gonna get right into it. Obviously, he did not speak English, so this is translated. In any case, the sense I am. And this is from I Am That, his most famous book. Questioner. And it's written out as question answer, which I think is really unique and good. It doesn't matter if daily experience that on waking up, the world suddenly appears. Where does it come from? Before anything can come into being, there must be somebody to whom it comes. All appearance and disappearance presupposes a change against some changeless background. Before waking up, I was unconscious. In what sense? Having forgotten or not having experience? Don't you experience even when unconscious? Can you exist without knowing? A lapse in memory, is it proof of non-existence? And can you validly talk about your own non-existence as an actual experience? You cannot even say that your mind did not exist. Did you not wake up upon being called? And on waking up, was it not the sense I am that came first? Some seed consciousness must be existing, even during sleep or swoon. On waking up, the experience runs. I am the body in the world. It may appear to arise in succession, but in fact, it is all simultaneous. A single idea of having a body in a world. Can there be the sense of I am without somebody or other? And I just want to say my commentary so far, even if you don't understand 100% of what he's saying, just taking in these words, this energy, this vibration is going to have a subtle effect on your consciousness. I don't know, you might feel when you start hearing about these things, you might feel like tingly inside or some kind of weird sensation. When I first started diving into this, like I would get high on this stuff, like literally, because what's happening is that your consciousness is recognizing the truth in it and sort of deconditioning itself. It's detaching itself from identity with all these things, little by little by little. And that decoupling from your consciousness with the identifications has a liberating effect. So when it's letting go, you're like, oh wow, you feel good, right? So if you feel good upon hearing this stuff, or if you feel something stirring inside you, it's working, right? You don't have to understand everything. That's really important. I'm always somebody with its memories and habits. I know no other I am. Maybe something prevents you from knowing. When you do not know something which others know, what do? I seek the source of their knowledge under their instruction. Is it not important? And if you're just listening, I'm doing question and answer. So you have to listen for the change in inflection. So the question was, I seek the source of the questioner. I seek the source of their knowledge under their instruction. And it is Maharaj. Is it not important to you to know whether you are a mere body or something else? Or maybe nothing at all? Don't you see that all your problems are your body's problems? Food, clothing, shelter, family, friends, name, fame, security, survival. All these lose their meaning the moment you realize that you may not be a mere body. Very powerful. Question, what benefit is there in knowing that I am not the body, Maharaj? Even to say that you are not the body is not quite true. In a way, you are all the bodies, hearts and minds, and much more. Go deep into the sense of I am, and you will find it. How do you find a thing that you have mislaid or forgotten? You keep it in your mind until you recall it. The sense of being of I am is the first to emerge. Ask yourself whence it comes, or just watch it quietly. When the mind stays in the I am without moving, you enter a state which cannot be verbalized, but can be experienced. All you need to do is try and try again. After all, the sense I am is always with you. Only you have attached all kinds of things to it, body, feeling, thoughts, ideas, possessions, etc. All these self-identifications are misleading. Because of them, you take yourself to be what you are not. Then what am I? Just a quick image there. While I was reading this, I was imagining a magnet with all sorts of like screws and nails and iron filings and a big ball, like this very powerful magnet. And then because it's attracted all this junk on around it. And that's what he's talking about. All this external junk attracted to the magnet, knives, forks, keys, screws, everything metal that is magnetized will be attracted to this powerful magnet. But you have to sort of remove all the extraneous detritus junk that does not belong in order to discover essentially who you are at your core. And that's what's going on. We've attached all this extraneous things through ignorance, through living in society, to our identity, and therefore we created a mess, right? And we say, I am all this stuff, I'm all this mess. We're not all this mess that we've attracted to ourselves, but we don't know that until we do the work to clean ourselves out. Then what am I? It is not enough to know what you are. It is enough to know what you are not. You need not know what you are, for as long as knowledge means description in terms of what is already known, perceptual or conceptual, there can be no such thing as self-knowledge. Now, let me read that again. It is enough to know what you are not. You need not know what you are. For as long as knowledge means description, for as long as knowledge means description in terms of what is already known, perceptual or conceptual, there can be no such thing as self-knowledge. Because all knowledge, and this is my interjection here, all knowledge is external, is based on external things. None of it has to do with who we actually are. All knowledge has to do with things that we are not. Right? There can be no such thing as self-knowledge, for what you are cannot be described except as total negation. All you can say is, I am not this, I am not that. You cannot meaningfully say, this is what I am. It just makes no sense. Hence the title of this book, I Am That. Right? He's not saying what, he's just, it's an abstract poetic interpretation. Okay. It just makes no sense. What you can point out as this or that cannot be yourself. Try it. Try it. Find something you can point to and say, this is me. But get real. Like really be and this is where Virgo comes in. Get analytical, pull it apart. If you can point to it, it's not you, because then there's two, right? You understand that? If you are pointing, that means it's not you, because you're the one doing the pointing. And if you're pointing at yourself, well, it's still, you have to find out, you have to identify who is doing the pointing, because it's not the physicality, if you get real with it, and it's not the mind, it's not the thoughts, because who's creating the thoughts? Go deep into it. Analyze your mind. Say, I. What is the I? You're not the thought itself, right? How can you be the thought itself? You are the one thinking the thought. Who is the thought for? Thought is not tangible. There is an experiencer of thought, a thinker of thought. Okay. All you can say is, I'm not this, I'm not that. You cannot meaningfully say, this is what I am. It just makes no sense. What you can point out as this or that cannot be yourself. Surely you cannot be something else. You are nothing perceivable or imaginable. Yet without you, there can be neither perception nor imagination. You observe the heart feeling, the mind thinking, the body acting. The very act of perceiving shows that you are not what you perceive. Can there be perception, experience without you? An experience must belong. Somebody must come and declare it as his own. Without an experiencer, the experience is not real. It is the experiencer that imparts reality to experience. An experience which you cannot have, or what value is it to you? An experience which you cannot have, of what value is it to you? And the thing that's going on here is that this is actually very, very simple. But what happens is people start to they flirt with, even just the flirtation with some of this ideas, they get scared. they get really scared and be like, oh my God, like I don't want to undo like all my illusions. They're not thinking about that consciously, but they're like, fear runs through their body and like, this is not for me. I'm not gonna, let's go back to gossip and $5 Starbucks lattes and how to whiten your teeth or whatever. People don't want to know the truth when they're presented with it. When they're presented with a really cold, hard analysis of the facts about who you are. And he does it exceptionally well, right? That's one of the values. That's one of the great values of Nisargadatta Maharaj. And in fact, all the varieties of spiritual teachers. That's why we need a whole host of spiritual teachers, because they're each going to express the truth in different ways. Remember, Khalil Gibran with the Prophet was expressing it in an incredibly poetic, beautiful way. Nisargadatta is coming at it with a knife, right? He's just like slicing and dicing. He's cold and hard and analytical, right? So there's many different ways to get at it, and you should look at it through different perspectives. It's really important. But the reason people don't like this is because it scares the crap out of them, because they actually start to experience just the very, very superficial sense of what it means to have their identity separate from, or I should say consciousness separate from their identity, the object of their identity, right? Like, I'm the body. No, you're not. Whoa, that's a scary proposition. I'm the mind. No, you're not. Whoa, I'm not my thoughts. Wow, I never even considered that. And it becomes real once you start to. That's why logic is so important, because logic can break through the fluff and confusion of shadow, of fog, the fog of confusion, right? But you have to be willing to do it, and you have to embrace the fear that comes with it, because there is some fear that gets released when you detach from illusion, when you separate from illusion, when you process illusion. There's a raw fear that was hiding behind it, that was fueling it, that you have to process. You're like, whoa, it's a little bit scary. But don't worry about the fear. Like, that's a good sign. And the more fear you embrace, you should be afraid of not experiencing fear. If you're always in comfort, that's a terrible sign. That means you're not growing spiritually. Okay, let's read some more. The sense of being an experiencer, the sense of I am, is it not also an experience? This is a question, the questioner. Obviously, this is Maharaj. Obviously, everything experienced is an experience. And in every experience, there arises the experiencer of it. You see, he's pointing to two, and this is very important to make sense of logically. Experience and experiencer. And if we don't understand this, then we might confuse the experience with the experiencer. Right? Separate it in your head. If you have joy or sorrow or pain or numbness, whatever you're experiencing, that's not you. You're the one experiencing it, not the experience. You're not the experience itself. If you experience sadness, you're not sad. You're having an experience. You are an experiencer. Memory creates the illusion of continuity, says Maharaj. In reality, each experience has its own experiencer. In reality, each experience has its own experiencer, and the sense of identity is due to the common factor at the root of all experience or experience relations. I just want to interject. If you sit by a stream or a river, it's never the same river or stream. You might think it is. You might be, oh, I love this, my favorite river. I've been going here all my life. I sit by it. I love this river. It's completely, from moment to moment, from second to second, it's completely different because the water is different. We are a river. We tend to we think we are constant. We think we are the same person from moment to moment. We're just a flow of consciousness. How personal are you going to take yourself when you realize you're just a river? You know, you're flowing. You're not the same person you were yesterday. You're not the same person you will be tomorrow. Right? In reality, each experience has its own experiencer, and the sense of identity is due to the common factor at the root of all experience relations. We are a flow, right? We're not static. We're not the static person. I'm the same person I was yesterday. You hear that so often. It's the stereotype, all on TV. You know, so you meet someone, I'm still the same person I was last year or 10 years ago. No, you're not, buddy. No, you're not. Identity and continuity are not the same, just as each flower has its own color, but all colors are caused by the same light. So do many experiences appear in the undivided and indivisible awareness, each separate in memory, identical in essence. This essence is the root, the foundation, the timeless and spaceless possibility of all experience. Let me read that again. Just as each flower has its own color, but all colors are caused by the same light. All colors are caused by the same light of the sun, same sun, right? So we think. So do many experiences appear in the undivided and indivisible awareness, each separate in memory, identical in essence. This essence is the root, the foundation, the timeless and spaceless possibility of all experience. Now, you should, if you're paying attention, you should have some tingles in your body, some sense of like, wow, like, because it's hitting on the truth. We're getting this. There is no word that is the truth, right? But we can get closer. We can approximate. We can have pointers that are more accurate. This is one of them. How do I get at it? So the question. You need not get at it, for you are it. It will get at you if you give it a chance. Let go your attachment to the unreal, and the real will swiftly and smoothly step into its own. Stop imagining yourself being or doing this or that, and the realization that you are the source and heart of all will dawn upon you. With this will come great love, which is not choice or predilection, nor attachment, but a power which makes all things love-worthy and lovable. See here, what most philosophies and religions and belief systems do is they block the truth from coming in. They pretend, they masquerade as the truth, but what they're really doing is blocking the truth from coming in, from allowing, because you believe something to be true. I believe my God is a separate God who lives in a box and he's defined by all these things. And there's a whole big list of things that are not God, right? We've got 1,000 long list of all the things that are not God. And God is just this little tiny thing in a box up in the sky, right? That's going to prevent you from realizing the truth, or whatever variation you have of that, right? However you conceptualize it. God is this. I am not God. I am down here, a lowly sinner, and I'm going to keep sinning and praise God. And it's like psychologically, I mean, you don't even have to be that intelligent to figure out the psychology of that. It's just a cop out. It's just a way to keep yourself, to give yourself an excuse. Like, it's an extreme example would be like, I'm a lowly criminal, right? I'm not a good guy. I'm a lonely criminal, but I like good guys. Those are the good guys over there. I respect them. I bow to them, but I'm a criminal. I'm just a poor, lowly, modest criminal, right? That's what they tell themselves. Like, oh, I could never be one of those higher good people. I have to commit crimes because I'm just lowly. I'm just such a ridiculous, human being that I have to commit crimes. That's essentially the way all religions, almost all of them, are set up, and philosophies, right? To keep the person low in vibration, where they think they're not divine, they're not part of the divinity, but the divinity is out there and it's separate from them, right? And we have to bow down to the divinity. We have to keep ourselves humble and low so we can keep sinning, right? Because we are not one of the holy divine ones. That's too much responsibility. There's way too much responsibility in realizing that you are God. not a God, not like a, like, that's Satanism. We are the individual, the ego is a God. We're trying to be equal to God. We're trying to surpass God. That's Satanism. The reality, the truth, the highest truth is the realization that it's all God and that this ego doesn't exist. But the truth, the true nature, our natural state of being is that of God, of consciousness, same as everything. All right, we're gonna go through number 2, obsession with the body. And I don't know if we'll do number 3. We'll see how good. Questioner, Maharaj, you are sitting in front of me and I'm here at your feet. What is the basic difference between us? There is no basic difference, says Maharaj. Questioner, there still must be some real difference. I come to you, you do not come to me. Maharaj, because you imagine differences, you go here and there in search of superior people. See, this is what I was talking about. We are deeply conditioned to think that we are not divine, that we are not enlightened, that we are not, one with God. And this is not something that I can, that I, just because I say that I can just be like, oh, I'm going to drop all my conditioning. But it helps to understand in untangling the knots. We're a bundle of knots. To understand that essentially this is what's going on, that we are confused, conditioned, knotted up beings that of our own doing, who are essentially God in disguise. We're God wearing a mask, right? Questioner, you too are a superior person. You claim to know the real, while I do not. Maharaj, did I ever tell you that you do not know, and therefore you are inferior? Let those who invented such distinctions prove them. I do not claim to know what you do not. In fact, I know much less than you do, Maharaj says. The questioner, your words are wise, your behavior noble, your grace all-powerful. I know nothing about it all and see no difference between you and me. My life is a succession of events just like yours. Only I am detached to see the passing show as a passing show, while you stick to things and move along with them. See, this is somebody who has Christ consciousness. And I know all the people who think Christ is like, there's nobody higher than Christ. Christ is the only one who's God's only son. And the reason they do that is so that they're because if anyone else was like Christ, that would threaten the ideology that they could never be Christ-like, that they could never approach Christ, and therefore they're a lowly sinner, right? It destroys them. They want to be a lowly sinner. That they gain. That's like eating ice cream. It's like getting drunk, right? It's like shooting heroin. I'm a lowly sinner. Therefore I can keep sinning, and I don't have the responsibility of being holy. And if you tell them there are others who are like Christ, they will say, no way, you're wrong, you're full of shit, and they'll get very offended. Because it will destroy that paradigm that says Christ was the only one possible who could be like that. They could never approach Christ because that would mean that they have some sort of responsibility to become more Christ-like, to be, and then it gets a very nuanced. Oh, we can become Christ-like, but we can never actually approach. See, there's this glass ceiling, right? But I'm saying this is somebody who has Christ consciousness. Buddha had Christ consciousness. Christ had Buddha consciousness. Let's put it the other way around. Christ had Nisargadatta Maharaj consciousness. They all have the same one consciousness. All right. And you can too. We all can. And in fact, we do. We are just confused and telling ourselves, no, we all have Christ consciousness. What made you so dispassionate? Nothing in particular. It so happened that I trusted my guru. He told me that I am nothing but myself, and I believed him. Trusting him, I behaved accordingly and ceased caring for what was not me nor mine. See, some people might read this and be like, this is so lowly. I mean, this is nothing like Christ. Christ was like 1 billion miles up there, and this is like, like dirt, And again, it's just reinforcing the same conditioned beliefs that a human being could never reach this high level, which means why try? Why try? We're just lowly humans. Let's keep sinning. Let's keep freaking injecting heroin into our arms because we're just lowly. It's not possible to ascend to higher consciousness. It's not possible to understand Christ or God or Buddha or anything like that. Buddha, it is different in Buddhism because they actually teach you that you can become like Buddha. In Christianity, they teach you can't, right? That's the difference. Why were you lucky to trust your teacher fully, while our trust is nominal and verbal? Who can say? It happens so. Things happen without cause and reason, and after all, what does it matter? Who is who? Your high opinion of me is your opinion only. Let's put Christ in this position. Christ is saying, your high opinion of me is your opinion only. And I know, like, okay, I don't want to get too deep. I guess I'm going off on a tangent here. Anyway, never mind that. Let's stick to this. Any moment you may change it. Why attach importance to opinions, even your own? Why attach importance to opinions, even your own? They often do that. Like, I'm like, I like this, I don't like that, and then I'm like, who cares? Like, I don't care about your opinion. Why should you care about? Why should I care about my opinion? I sometimes do, but objectively, doesn't freaking matter. It's just an opinion. Still, you are different. Your mind seems to be always quiet and happy, and miracles happen around you. See, miracles happen around him. This is what happens when you reach Christ consciousness. This is a Christ. This is a Buddha. This is a living sage. I know nothing about miracles, and I wonder whether nature admits exceptions to her laws, unless we agree that everything is a miracle. As to my mind, there is no such thing. There is consciousness in which everything happens. It is quite obvious, and within the experience of everybody, you just do not look carefully enough. Look well and see what I see. We are blinded. We are blinded by our own willing, entrapment through our psychic, bondage that we enslave ourselves with, our own condition that we have accepted. I am nothing. I am nobody. I am a human. I can never be holy. I can never be like God or Jesus or Christ or Buddha or anything like that. I've sinned too much. The only thing I can do is just keep sinning. It's all excuses. It's all a way to keep ourselves small. What do you see? I see what you too could see here and now, but for the wrong focus of your attention. You give no attention to yourself. Your mind is all with things, people, and ideas, never with yourself. I just need to interject. This is very, very important. If you start talking about this stuff with people, most people will be like, oh, that's too much for me. I need to think about the weather and the politics and religion and this belief system, that belief system. Those are really important. I cannot really pay attention to who I am because hey, buddy, that's getting into weird territory there. That's a little bit, they won't say it, but it's like what they're really saying is scary. It's scary. And that's the reason people don't look into this stuff, is they're scared. You give no attention to yourself because you're scared. I'm saying that. Your mind is with all things, people, and ideas, never with yourself because you're scared. That's me. Bring yourself into focus. Become aware of your own existence. That's scary. See how you function. Watch the motives and the results of your actions. Scary. Because then you'll unravel. You'll unravel your bondage, and then you will be free. And then you will have the responsibility of being an evolved human being, not a lowly sinner. Study the prison you have built around yourself by inadvertence. You have done it yourself. You have enslaved yourself. You have shackled yourself. By knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. Discover what you are not. Discover that you are not the body, that you are not the mind, that you are not the emotions. Do the work. It happens on a experiential level. The way we learn is not through mere self-talk. That's a part of it. But if you stick your hand in the fire, eventually you're going to know on a soul level, even if you forget intellectually, that fire hurts. Fire hurts. Stick your hand in the fire, it hurts. That's a soul lesson, right? And so when we learn on a soul level that we're not the body, not the mind, not the emotions, it goes deep into our experience. It changes us. That's why the work is so important. You have to be changed by the work. In a moment of sadness, have an adventure, be daring, be bold enough to just be like, what the fuck is this? Why am I so concerned? What? Like, why? Like, who cares? Like, have you ever sat there as an observer, as a passive observer, like what you're watching a movie and watch yourself just cry? Like when you're sad or angry or be angry, right? Chances are you won't be able to be angry for very long if you do this. Sadness is the closest, easiest, most flowing way to get rid of that negative energy. That's why it's a good way to begin. Find yourself in a moment of vulnerable sadness and watch yourself. And it's really not very bad at all. And in fact, you might discover that there is a certain beautiful quality to being sad, and therefore, why should you have any resistance at all to sadness? And if you have no resistance to sadness, you can experience all your sadness and truly, truly, truly not be sad anymore. Like you can completely have process all of your sadness to the point where you are not even slightly sad. That's entirely possible for you, the listener, or whoever you are, for everyone, to overcome all their sadness, and all overcome through this way, and empty out all negative emotions. Because if you just begin with the sadness, then the other negative emotions will have a chance to come out too, right? It's like you're backed up. If you take out one, then you can take out the other. All right. Study the prison you have built around yourself by inadvertence. By knowing what you are not, you come to know yourself. The way back to yourself is through refusal and rejection. Find out that you are not all the things that you think you are. And by being objective, that's how you do it. One thing is certain, the real is not imaginary. It is not a product of the mind. Even the sense I am is not continuous, though it is a useful pointer. It shows where to seek, but not what to seek. Just have a good look at it. Once you are convinced that you cannot say truthfully about yourself anything except I am, because anything else is a lie. I'm interjecting here. Everything else is a lie. Say anything I am, follow it with anything. It's not true. There's nothing you can say about that is in reality a real truth. You can say things that are more true and things that are less true. Like I am consciousness, I am spirit, I am soul, right? These things are more true, but they're still not true. All right, now back to Maharaj. And that nothing can be pointed at can be yourself. Nothing you can point at can be yourself, because that implies two. You're the pointer, not the pointed, right? That's external. Stop identifying with things that are not you. That's a problem. When you identify with things that are external to you, then you just become gunked up with junk, right? You have all this stuff like attached to your magnet. Just take it off. And that nothing can be pointed at can be yourself. The need for the I am is over. You are no longer intent on verbalizing what you are. All you need is to get rid of the tendency to define yourself. All definitions apply to your body only and to its expressions. Once this obsession with the body goes, he's also speaking about the brain, which the mind is the interface of the spirit and the brain. You will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. The only difference between us is that I am aware of my natural state while you are bemused. Just like gold made into ornaments has no advantage over gold dust. See, the analogy is that gold can be molded into many different shapes, but the identity is still gold, not the shape. If you have a gold eagle, it's still gold. If you have a gold horse, it's still gold. If you have a gold dust, it's still gold. If you have a gold nugget, it's still gold. If you have a gold ring, it's still gold, right? So we're identifying with the form, not with the actual substance. There's the confusion. You know, if somebody's a gold eagle and the other person is a gold ring, so there, one person will be like, I'm an eagle, look at me, I'm an eagle. The other person will be like, well, look at me, I'm a ring. You know, both are quite wrong, right in the sense, but wrong in essence. And that gold is more fundamental to who they are than the shape of the eagle or shape of the ring, or whatever it is. Except when the mind makes it so. So, all right, just like gold made into ornaments has no advantage over gold dust, except when the mind makes it so. So are we one in being. Except when the mind makes it so. So the gold, the fancy gold jewelry will be perceived worth more than the gold dust by the fact of the craft gone into it, right? So somebody who studies at Harvard and becomes a rich billionaire will have greater perceived value than the homeless person, even though they are essentially the same. We differ only in appearance. We discover it by being earnest, by searching, inquiring, questioning daily, an hour, hourly, by giving one's life to this discovery. It's going to take all of you. I mean, and that's why I'm only as far as I am, because I've only given a certain percentage of my life to discovering this. But that's also why I'm sharing it. It's not just like I have some idea like I'm helping you. I'm a good person. I'm helping you. I get a lot out of this. This is like, you know, feeding me, right? That's why I do it. Let's do a little more. The living present. Questioner. As I can see, there is nothing wrong with my body nor with my real being. Both are not of my making and need not be improved upon. What has gone wrong is the inner body. Call it mind consciousness, antakarana. That's obviously an Indian word that I don't understand. Whatever the name, Maharaj. What do you consider to be wrong with your mind? Questioner. It is restless, greedy of the pleasant, and afraid of the unpleasant. Right? Just kind of like all of us. We tend to be restless. We want more of what feels good, less of what doesn't feel good. What is wrong with its seeking the pleasant and shirking the unpleasant? Between the banks of pain and pleasure, the river of life flows. Between the banks of pain and pleasure, the river of life flows. Sounds like a line from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. It is only when the mind refuses to flow with life and gets stuck at the banks that it becomes a problem. By flowing with life, I mean acceptance, letting come what comes and go what goes. Desire not, fear not, observe the actual as and when it happens. For you are not what happens, you are to whom it happens. Ultimately, even the observer, you are not. You are the ultimate potentiality of which the all-embracing consciousness is the manifestation and expression. Let me read the last line because it's gonna a lot to take in. You are the ultimate potentiality of which the all-embracing consciousness is the manifestation and expression. Wow. Yeah. I mean, how much more smoothly would life be if we just didn't resist the bad and chase after the good, right? We just took it as it comes, neutral, indifferent. Be a lot more smooth, certainly. Yet between the body and self, there lies a cloud of thoughts. This is the questioner. Yet between the body and the self, there lies a cloud of thoughts and feelings, which neither serve the body, which neither serve the body nor the self. That's the type of. Which neither serve the body nor the self. These thoughts are and feelings are flimsy, transient, and meaningless, mere mental dust that blinds and chokes. Yet they are there, obscuring and destroying. See, what he's describing is the human condition. We feel restless. We feel unsure of ourselves. We look at somebody like Maharaj, anyone who's enlightened, Nisargadatta, and we see how at ease and peaceful they are. And they say, yeah, there's definitely something different about us, right? I have all these painful thoughts and feelings and all this stuff, chasing and resisting, and you're just like completely happy and peaceful and wise. What's the difference? That's what's going on here. And he's trying to describe it. He's trying to say, he wants Maharaj to say, yes, I am enlightened, you are not. But Maharaj has gone through this illusion, so he's not he's not playing into that game. So anyway, these thoughts and feelings are flimsy, transient, and meaningless, mere mental dust that blinds and chokes, yet they are there, obscuring and destroying. Maharaj, please help me with these thoughts and feelings that I don't know what to do with, that are not serving, that seem to be harmful. Surely the memory of an event cannot pass for the event itself. This is Maharaj. Nor can the anticipation. There is something exceptional, unique about the present event, which the previous or the coming do not have. There is a livingness about it, an actuality. It stands out as if illuminated. There is the stamp of reality on the actual, which the past and the future do not have. There is something exceptional, unique about the present event, which the previous or the coming do not have. There is a livingness about it, about the present, an actuality. It stands out as if illuminated, this present moment. There is the stamp of reality on the actual, which the past and the future do not have. This present moment, right? Like Eckhart Tolle talks about all the time, the power of now. What gives the present the stamp of reality? There is nothing peculiar in this present event to make it different from the past and future. For a moment, the past was actual, and the future will become so. What makes the present so different? This is Maharaj speaking. Obviously, my presence, I am real, for I am always now, in the present. And what is with me now shares in my reality. The past is in memory, the future in imagination. So memory and imagination. Memory of the past, imagination of the future. There's nothing in the present event itself that makes it stand out as real. It may be some simple periodical occurrence, like the striking of a clock. In spite of our knowing that successive strokes are identical, the present stroke is quite different from the previous one and the next, as remembered or expected. A thing focused in the now is with me, for I am ever present. It is my own reality that I impart to the present event. What's really unique about this, which I love, is that enlightened beings, truly enlightened beings, sound like they're repeating themselves. I mean, they're saying the same things in a different way, right? And I have no doubt that this is a Christ consciousness, and so is Eckhart Tolle, right? And so is Ramana Maharshi, and so was Khalil Gibran. Now, we could say there are more enlightened and less enlightened, and I'm not going to dispute that. But at the same time, I'm not going to rank. With some exceptions, there are some who are a little bit more pretentious as far as their spirituality goes than others. But there are those who are among those who are truly enlightened, generally speaking. It's very, especially somebody as myself, who's not as, is not enlightened, but has only just the capacity to observe the enlightened. I'm close enough to it that I can see it for what it is. But at the same time, I'm not going to rank those who are supremely enlightened or get into some sort of, hierarchy. But I will notice the similarities. But we deal with the things remembered as if they were real. But we deal with things remembered as if they were real, says the question. We consider memories only when they come into the present. The forgotten is not counted until one is reminded, which implies bringing it into the now. See, this is just like Eckhart Tolle. Yes, I can see there is the now, some unknown factor that gives momentary reality to the transient actuality. That's the question. Maharaj says, you need not say it is unknown, for you see it in constant operation. Since you were born, has it ever changed? Things and thoughts have been changing all the time, but the feeling that what is now is real has never changed, even in dream. Now is always the same, even in dream. In deep sleep, there is no experience of the present realities, is the question. In deep sleep, there's no experience of the present reality. Maharaj. The blankness of deep sleep is due entirely to the lack of specific memories, but a general memory of well-being is there. There is a difference in feeling when we say I was deeply asleep from I was absent. Deep sleep is very enjoyable, and we know this because by comparison, we wake up and we're like, oh, put me back to sleep. It's better than this, right? I mean, obviously, our wake state takes over, and we're like, oh, I got all this stuff to do, and blah blah blah. But just experientially, deep sleep is very, very pleasurable. We shall repeat the question we began with. This is the question. We shall repeat the question we began with. Between life's source and life's expression, which is the body, there is the mind and its ever-changeful states. The stream of mental states is endless, meaningless, and painful. The stream of mental states is endless, meaningless, and painful. See, he's trying to resolve his own discontent with life, and he's not there yet. He's dissatisfied so far. He's trying to get answers. Pain is the constant factor. What we call pleasure is but a gap, an interval between the two painful states. Desire and fear are the weft and warp of living, and both are made of pain. Our question is, can there be a happy mind? Great question, Maharaj. Desire is the memory of pleasure, and fear is the memory of pain. Both make the mind restless. Moments of pleasure are merely gaps in the stream of pain. How can the mind be happy? It's Maharaj putting a question back to him. How can the mind be happy? That is true when we desire pleasure or expect pain. So going back, Maharaj is saying, how can the mind be happy if the mind is always holding on to the memories and anticipations? Memory of pleasure, memory of pain, anticipation of pleasure or pain, but never really fully in the moment. So we're divided between the past and the future. And that's why he says, how can the mind be happy under this condition when we're so divided? That is true when we desire pleasure or expect pain. But there are moments of unexpected, unanticipated joy, pure joy, uncontaminated by desire, unsought, undeserved, God-given. That's the question. Maharaj says, still, joy is joy only against the background of pain. We only recognize joy because we know what pain is. Questioner, is pain a cosmic fact or purely mental? The universe is complete, and when there is completeness, where nothing lacks, what can give pain? Says Maharaj. The questioner says, the universe may be complete as a whole, but incomplete in details. Maharaj says, a part of the whole seen in relation to the whole is also complete. A part of the whole seen in relation to the whole is also complete. Only when seen in isolation, it becomes deficient and thus a seat of pain. What makes for isolation? Questioner. Limitations of the mind, of course. The mind cannot see the whole for the part. Maharaj says, good enough. The mind, by its very nature, divides and opposes. Can there be some other mind which unites and harmonizes, which sees the whole in part and the part as totally related to the whole? The other mind, where to look for it? The other mind, says the questioner, where to look for it? See, he's outsourcing it. He's saying like, oh, there's this other mind somewhere that will give me happiness. How can I find it? Maharaj, in the going beyond the limiting, the dividing and the opposing, in the going beyond the limiting, dividing and opposing mind, in ending the mental process as we know it, when this comes to an end, that mind is born. So that the unifying mind is what he's talking about. Maharaj says, in the going beyond the limiting, dividing, and opposing mind, in ending the mental process as we know it, when this comes to an end, that mind is born. So that mind is the mind that is no longer attached to all these false identities. So false identity is at the root, right? And just to relate it to modern, wokery nonsense, everyone not everyone, but a lot of people are obsessed with identity. Like identity is so important and they're latching onto it. Like that's something really important that we have to strive for. What do you identify as? But when you study spirituality, it's the opposite. It's saying stop identifying because you are not what you identify as. You know, don't add on things to identify. They're adding on. They're like, my regular conditioning is not enough. Let's add on further identity. I identify as a cat. I identify as a dog. I identify as a woman. I identify as a man. I identify as the 35th gender, right? It's all this nonsense. It's just utter complete. It's descending further into the realm of hell. Stop identifying. You are none of that. In fact, you are not even your biological sex. But we have a biological sex. That's just a fact. But you're not that. So why put on another layer of pretense beyond that? Saying, "Oh, I'm going to negate my biological sex by identifying as the opposite." But that's just another layer of identity, right? Stop identifying with both of them. Return to nothing. Return to neutral, right? That's where you're going to find this mind that is unifying, and that does not have this pain and sorrow and joy roller coaster, right? If you've had enough. If you haven't had enough, keep playing, but at least be honest and admit that the goalpost is over here and you're not quite there yet. You still want to have fun, right? Otherwise, you can get in real trouble, becoming real, because you don't know where you are. You know, this is a map. This is a map of life, a map of the universe. And it shows you where the ending is. And if you look at the ending and you're really honest with yourself, and you say, I'm not quite ready to end it all. I still got some work to do here. It's so valuable to understand that and know that, because then when the pain comes, you can just be like, you can laugh at yourself because you're like, yeah, you know what? I chose this. So how can I really be upset about all the shit that I'm going through when it's been my choice all along? That's the sort of game that you end up realizing, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm playing a game. I might as well play it. Might as well go through the motions because I chose this is what I wanted, but it's just a game. Don't take it too seriously. All right. When this comes to an end, that mind is born. I'm just about done, if you're wondering. The questioner says, in that mind, the problem of joy and sorrow exists no longer. Not as we know them, as desirable or repugnant. It becomes rather a question of love seeking expression and meeting with obstacles. The inclusive mind is love in action, battling against circumstances, initially frustrated, ultimately victorious. The question, between the spirit and the body, is it love that provides the bridge? What else? Mind creates the abyss, the heart crosses it. I mean, that's beautiful, right? This fiery, passionate Maharaj, who, if you watch videos of him, you'll understand what I mean. Smoking these beady cigarettes, yelling at the top of his lungs about the nature of reality in very hot India with the fan blowing in the shack, and if you, he would yell at you too if he thought you needed yelling at, very harsh, but very, very powerful, extremely enlightened being. Anyway, you can read the rest yourself if you like. Extremely valuable, extremely potent teachings. He's one of my favorites. So do yourself a favor and look into Nisargadatta Maharaj. Great man. This is what he looked like.
The sense of I am. It is a matter of daily experience.
I just wanted to show you
waking up.
The picture of him. So that's what he looked like. Really unique character. Beautiful, powerful man. All right, so I'm gonna stop my share and I will see you guys again soon. All right, thanks. Bye.